Hello and welcome to this special edition regarding the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Badr Abdulati, who conducted a phone call today with the Omani counterpart, Badr al-Busaidi, within the framework of the continuous coordination between the two countries. As the Foreign Ministry spokesman, Tamim Khalaf, said that during the phone call, the Omani minister briefed Minister Abdulati of the developments in the negotiations among Qatar, the United States and Iran. The Omani top diplomat praised the Egyptian continuous efforts and the contacts with the concerned parties over the recent weeks that paved the way for the negotiations and prevented sliding into new waves of unrest in the region. For his part, Minister Abdulati expressed appreciation to the important role that Oman is playing in hosting the negotiations, stressing that Egypt would continue its intensive efforts for de-escalation and containing the unrest in the region. And to be shedding more light on this important topic, I'm honored to be having with me over the phone from Washington, D.C., Ms. Hiba Al-Qudsi, the journalist. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on Nile TV International and this special edition.
Thank you, Ahmed. It's my honor. Thank you so much.
Ms. Hiba, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ahmed. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. First of all, how do you see the important role of Egypt in the region nowadays to be de-escalating the tension between the United States and Iran, especially in the backdrop of the negotiations that are taking place in Oman?
As you mentioned, this phone call from Dr. Badr Abdulati with the Irani and Omani foreign minister, this kind of negotiation and trying to push for a real outcome of the negotiation between the U.S. and Iran, it's very important to de-escalate this kind of tension. But unfortunately, here in Washington, they are not really optimistic about the outcome. There was no immediate breakthrough of this negotiation. It's just very optimistic that it was a start, a good start, but nothing was agreed upon. And taking into consideration that while Egypt and the regional powers are trying to de-escalate this tension, the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, is coming to Washington this Wednesday trying to push President Trump to put more military pressure and include some other, not only the nuclear issue, but also the plastic missiles and the proxies in the region. So this gonna be a very tough negotiation, and Iran is dancing around it by trying to prolonging the negotiation. But unfortunately, on the other hand, President Trump is unpredictable and he can lose his patience very quickly, especially that he wants to concentrate on the midterm and pushing the Republican Party to take as much seats as possible. So the timing is not on the American side, but Iran wants to prolong this process.
You've mentioned the possible outcomes, specifically that there could be optimism regarding the negotiations. What are the proposed possible outcomes of those negotiations?
It seems like Iran are very stubborn that it will just concentrate on the nuclear program and maybe coming with some kind of ideas that they can freeze the nuclear program for some time and lower the enrichment, the uranium enrichment to only 3.67 instead of 60%. But they don't want to respond to zero enrichment that was asked by the White House press Secretary Caroline Levitt, that the administration insists on having zero enrichment. They are really trying to find some mutual ground, some ideas out of the box. But I really doubt that it will be something that will happen quickly, because even if Mr. Abbas Araghchi shows some kind of flexibility, at the end of the day, it's the supreme leader's decision. That's the decision that he's the only one to make. And he didn't show any flexibility about the nuclear program or the plastic missiles. And he's threatening that if Iran is attacked, he will attack all the American bases in the region. So the risk is really high.
Well, you mentioned that the U.S. President Donald Trump could be losing patience as the negotiations proceed. What kind of pressure could be applied by, excuse me, by the U.S. President on Iran to be speeding up the negotiations for the favor of the United States, or in favor of the United States?
Trump is really convinced that peace coming from power, from showing how powerful the U.S. military is. And he's really proud of the beautiful armada and aircraft, Abraham Lincoln, that it's there in front of Iran, and all the military pressure. So if he loses his patience, and under several circumstances, and after a round or two, like what happened last year, we had some kind of 5 or 6 rounds of negotiation. So there will be some kind of using this military action. President Trump is unpredictable, and losing his patience, he really wants a deal. And he spoke yesterday with the journalist saying that Iran wants a deal. So it all depends on how Iran can be more flexible, how the regional powers can really have a say in this negotiation, convincing both the U.S. and the Iranian side to de-escalate and to find a mutual ground and have a deal, have a real deal that will prevent Israel to push the U.S. to strike or do any sort of uncalculated strike against Israel. That would be really dangerous with a lot of consequences.
Yes, and today we have seen the Foreign Minister, Dr. Badr Abdulati, also receiving a phone call from the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi. The phone call tackled the latest developments regarding the same issue and the negotiations between Iran and the United States taking place in Oman. How do you see the importance of Egypt in the region, in the Middle East, and what does this say, what does the phone call say about the efforts of Egypt in terms of de-escalating the tensions between both states?
Of course, Egypt is doing a lot of efforts and paying a lot of attention to this escalation between Iran and the U.S. And it's in Egypt's favor to de-escalate this tension and do its best to convince all parties to come into their senses. So this phone call is trying, between Dr. Badr Abdulati and Grossi, is trying to find some kind of an agreement. How can we work out to convince Iran to open the door again for inspectors to come again to Iran? That will lower the fear that the U.S. is having about enriching uranium to 60%. Maybe convincing Iran to open its doors to these inspections, to these inspectors. This will lower or de-escalating the tension. On the other hand, keeping this kind of phone calls and negotiation and paying all efforts to support the idea of lowering the tension and de-escalation, so will come into a mutual understanding. Of course, Egypt has its power and its importance in the region, its regional weight in the region, to do this kind of negotiating with all parties to find some kind of a solution.
Yes, Ms. Hiba Al-Qudsi, the journalist from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on Nile TV International and this special edition.